welcome back to Coffee and Convos for another Wednesday night. We've taken a little bit of a break from Coffee and Convos lately because we have been going through a series on Church on the Couch of This Is My Story. And so we have been listening to some of those stories from some of our people, and boy, have they been impactful to people. We have gotten so many comments from so many people that they've just been moved by those stories. And so we appreciate all of those people that did share with us. Chris, you are one of those people that shared, so thank you so much for sharing your story. But tonight we're here because this past Sunday was Father's Day. So we're here to talk about fatherhood with some fathers. So just to introduce who we have here tonight, and then I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves in a sense and tell us a little bit about their family. And then we'll get into some juicy conversation together about fatherhood and what that means for each one of us. So first of all, we have Ross. And Ross is a father-to-be. So congratulations is due to Ross and Brianna. They are expecting their first child, and that's just super exciting. So we thank you, Ross, for being here tonight. We have Chris, and Chris is a new father, just a little bambino that has come their way, and an answer to prayer, an absolute answer to prayer. And Chris, you talked a little bit about that in your story. And if you want to check out Chris's story, just go to our YouTube channel and you can watch that there. But thanks, Chris, for being here with us. We have Mr. Fitness, David Fitness, with us, and he's a more experienced father. I won't say an older father, but I will say a more experienced father. And so he brings with him just that wealth of experience of fatherhood. And so we look forward to hearing some of the things that you had to say, Dave, and we welcome you. And also we have right here in my office with me, the one and the only Ron Cox. Ron, welcome.
Well,
great to have you.
good to be here.
Father and grandfather, and many years of experience in fatherhood. So we look forward to hearing some of the wisdom that you have to share with us tonight. So guys, first of all, tell us a little bit about your family. Maybe we can start kind of in the same order and start with Ross and just go through the way that we introduced, and just tell us a little bit about your family and what you've got happening in your space at the moment.
Yeah, sure. My wife Brianna and I have been married for 2 and a bit years now. We've known each other for just on 5 years now. When we moved to Brisbane last year, we got ourselves a fur baby, and so we've been practicing with our little fur baby Millie, and she's been an absolute bundle of joy. The first week of not sleeping, which I've been told is absolutely nothing for what I'm in for. Human baby was just astounding. So she's our world now, and yeah, now we're expecting our first human baby late February next year. So something amazing out of 2020.
Nice. Yeah, it's been a tumultuous year, but there are silver linings, to every cloud. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been great.
Chris, tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, as you alluded to, we've got Abigail, who came along in October last year, 6 weeks early. So Brittany and I have been married for 7.5 years, or thereabouts. So we, as you alluded to in my story, we took a little while to have Abigail. We've got 3 or 4 babies in heaven, so we'll get to meet them eventually. And Abigail's graced us with her presence in only a fashion that Brittany and I can manage through emergency in October last year. So, yeah, you're in for a lot of sleepless nights, Ross.
Thanks.
Good stuff. Thanks so much. David, tell us about your family.
Yeah, look, I am a father with 32 years experience now. So we have 2 children. Adam's 32 and our daughter Rachel is a few years younger, 29. And so they've been, that they're now adults making their way in the world, and it's been an interesting and joyful journey to watch them grow and develop and become the individuals, the people that they are today.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I look forward to hearing a bit more from you, a bit more wisdom. Ron.
And here is Ron. Yes, two boys. They are men. 47-year-old, the eldest boy, and Cam's about 41. So I've got two sons. And Jeff, the eldest boy, he's got two sons, a 15-year-old going on 21, and 13-year-old, and they are developing nicely. Cam, our youngest boy, just turned 41. He's got an older daughter. She's about 18. She lives with her mum. And with his partner, he's got another boy and a girl. So I've got 7 grandchildren and the 2 sons, and they're all a delight. And I love being in the shops when I see young people with their family, and especially if the kids are playing up. I just say, I said, do you want some good news? And they say, yeah, what? I said, they don't improve when they get to 40.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, Ron. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I should mention that we have our beverages here tonight. We seem to have slipped away from the coffee part of Coffee and Convos, but the coffee is making a comeback, except for Chris. I think Chris has a Coke there in that New South Wales Blues mug, but it's shocking that he even has the Blues mug on screen tonight.
Water.
Ron has his water. All right.
You didn't tell us about your family.
I didn't, and I was just about to do that. I just had to take a swig of my coffee. We've got our coffees to keep us going in conversation tonight. But yeah, so Tim Andrews, obviously my name, and I have a beautiful wife, Krista, and 3 beautiful children, Alex, Carrie, and Isabella, 12, 11, and 7. And they more than definitely keep us on our toes at this stage in life. And I know that David and Ron could probably regale me with stories of how things will be as they grow, but we're just trying our hardest to slow down and enjoy the time that we have at the moment with them every day. So yeah, such a joy. Speaking of joys, that's one thing I wanted to talk with you guys about tonight, is that what are some of the joys? Having children comes with joys, but also comes with challenges. So I wanted to talk about both tonight and just get an idea from you guys what you feel is the greatest joy, or what you feel is the greatest challenge. Now with Ross, of course, Ross is expecting, so it's for you, I guess, what you anticipate to be the greatest joy, what you anticipate to be the greatest challenge. But yeah, I just want to throw it out there to any of you guys to just start, and just share with us, with me and with each other, and also with the people that are watching, what are some of the joys, or one of the biggest joys perhaps, that you have experienced as being a father?
I think that that when I look back on my kids' lives, and there are many memories of them as children growing up, and how their personalities developed, and the things that they enjoyed doing, and the things that they did that either got them into trouble or almost got them into trouble. But and that when you look back on these things, they're all joyful experiences. That's part of the fabric of life. And so I had a son and a daughter, and really my daughter was a very adventurous little girl. She was a climber, and we have great memories of her climbing anything that she could. So it resulted in a broken arm for her as a little 18-month-old toddler who was told not to climb on the coffee table, but she was determined, and she climbed on the coffee table. And I happened to be home in charge of the our little daughter at the time, and I said, look, she complained of having a sore wrist, and I said, look, it's okay, you'll be right. Well, I'll just put you to bed, and you'll feel better in the morning. apparently in the morning, and her mother got her out of bed, and her wrist was quite limp, and she wasn't able to use her arm, and it turned out to be fractured. But that was that's not such a joyful experience, but it's just a memory we have, which we look back on now. But I think the most, and so climbing for Rachel and Adam was less adventurous really as a boy, but that was just the way they were. But I think one of the joys that I have now is having seen them both develop into adults, and the old saying that your children are always your children regardless of what age they are. And I think Ron will vouch for that as well. But to now, one of the things I enjoy more than anything is having really good debates with my opinionated daughter and my equally opinionated daughter-in-law, and we cover a range of topics, and it's just it's good, and I just enjoy that relationship. So those are some of the joys that I experience and have experienced as a dad. Yeah.
Nice. Chris, what about you? Any thoughts on that? Joys?
Well, knowing that your daughter broke her wrist at 18 months doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, Dave. Because Abigail's a climber. She's already fallen out of the high chair head first. And she was fine. But yeah, she's already tried to scale the screen door and the stairs and what have you at daycare. But we got a bit lucky, or I got a bit lucky, obviously with COVID being stuck at home every day. I've kind of been at home for all her milestones, which, to take the best out of a bad situation, being like, there's 3 or 4 days sometimes where I don't leave the house because I work from home. So I get up, work, go to bed. But I get to see, when she started crawling, when she started making different sounds, rather than getting the message at work or the video. So that's been one of the joys for me. I think having seen her as a preemie 6 weeks early, and then having hip dysplasia and being in a Pavlik harness. And Ross, if you want your kid to sleep, get them in a harness because they can't roll. It's fantastic.
Trap the child.
Sounds cruel, but that was one of the positives of her being in that harness. She only woke once a night, I think, from about 2 months to when she got it off at 8 months. But yeah, that's been the joy for me, is getting to see all that stuff because I've been stuck at home. And also seeing her, I guess, defy a lot of doctors and what they've said about, she'll be slow to develop and she'll eat late and sit up late. And she had to go through some physio, but she's up with all the kids that she sees that were born at term. So that's a pretty, bit of a joy. And just to see her happy all the time. She's a very, very happy baby. That's what a lot of people tell us. And if she knew how she started in the world, I don't know if she'd be so happy, but she's always very happy, which is good.
Yeah, good. Awesome. Thanks so much. Ron?
I guess my greatest joy is that I'm still here to see my kids, and especially my boys, to see how they've developed and how they've excelled in life, got their own little family groups, and then to see the grandchildren come on, and from 15 to 11, or 18 to 11, and so it's a fairly tight little group, and they're each developing their own ways, quite unique. It's amazing how you can get different coloured peas out of the same pod, and so they're each developing into their own individual self, and that's a joy to watch that, and to watch how the sons parent their children. Yes. I mean, I think of my parents parenting me, I parented my sons. Now we've got a third generation, 3 distinct roles, 3 distinct types of parenting, because parenting has changed over the years. And to see how they manage that and doing it successfully, and that's a joy to me, just to see how the younger ones are developing.
Yeah, so good, so good. Ross, any thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, a couple. Last week we got to see a scan of Bub, and it was laying down and pretty much sleeping exactly the same way I do, with an arm above its head and stretching out. And I was just like, that's mine. And it hit me. Then I was like, oh, that's mine. And then as I was working this week and getting kids ready for assessment, and every now and then you just see a light switch on in the kid's brain, and suddenly they get it and they want to talk with you about everything about that topic. And that makes me so happy as a teacher. I can't wait for how that's going to make me feel when it's my own kid, when it's my own child, and the light switches on, and they want to have that conversation. They want to talk, and they are seriously energetic and enthusiastic about something. I just can't wait for that to happen to me and to be mine.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Thank you so much for sharing. For me, one of the biggest joys of fatherhood has been when my children teach me something. It's sometimes I end up, you end up putting your foot in your mouth. You end up, or they end up saying the words that they open their mouths and your words come out, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes kids, in your interaction with them, they really teach you things. And I think about the scripture that says, a little child will lead them. And in places where it says, if we don't receive people like children do, if we don't receive faith like children do, then we'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. And so I really feel that kids have so much to teach us as adults, because there's this innocence that they have and this purity that they have. And that's been one of my greatest joys. I'm not always willing or ready to receive that teaching, but it ends up being a joy for me when I do receive that. So yeah, that's been one of mine. So look, with joys in fatherhood, there are inevitably going to come some challenges in fatherhood as well. So I throw out that question. What is or has been, or do you anticipate to be your greatest challenge in fatherhood? Ron, maybe start with you. What do you think?
I see my biggest challenge right now as being a father, grandfather, and my challenge is to be an authentic Christian. I tried to bring my boys up in a certain way. We had a certain path that they travelled, coming to church, and they went through junior soldiers, etc. So they know the Christian path. Both boys now do not go to church. Occasionally my eldest boy might go. So his boys have seen a little bit of church life. My youngest son, they've never seen a church life, although they've been to a church school, which is interesting. So they know how I live. They know what my, what's the right word?
Your convictions, your beliefs.
What my convictions are. So I've got to be authentic to them and to their children. The kids all know I go to church. Papa goes to church. And I would believe that particularly the younger ones would know that church people are good people. So I've got to be a good papa to these kids. So I've got to be very careful. I've got to display all the things that I think that they would expect. I've got to be kind to them. I've got to be understanding to them. I've got to be patient with them. I've got to show love to them in all of their different ways that they live. The challenge to me is, as I get older, some of these things get a little bit more difficult to do. So I've got to be very aware of who I am with the younger ones. That's my challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had challenges with the kids. I mean, you wouldn't want to go through those. That's another story.
Right. Any other challenges around the room, the virtual room? Anybody else want to share?
I think there's so many unknowns for me going forward, I struggle to select one. One thing I do know about myself is that when I was a child, I was very impatient and very stubborn and very frustrated a lot of the time. So I hope and pray that they are like Brianna and are beautiful children, as it's so often attested to by Bree's parents. But if they have any of me and any of my personality, then being able to support them, it is going to be my challenge, and hopefully I can be that to them.
Yeah. So good. Thank you.
That's a great segue, Ross, actually. Because I was just thinking about one of our challenges, trying to get Abigail to eat sometimes. And you talking about, I pray she has your child has Brianna's traits, and Abigail, we think, has picked up Brit's appetite, not mine, which is a challenge when you've got a premier baby that's got to put on weight faster than a normal baby. So, that's been some of our biggest challenges, is trying to get her to eat. But I'm sure that's a challenge with many parents of newborns, because they're learning to eat, they're learning to pick things up, and their stomachs are trying to process things. So, but for us, we've had to try and get her to eat extra to put on some weight faster, but she's actually doing really well. I mentioned before she had the hip dysplasia, so she had was in the harness for 6 months, and that's actually, the doctors say that's more challenging for the parents than the babies, because the babies don't know any different, so they just handle it in their strides. So we had to learn to change her nappy and sponge bath her, and could only hold a certain ways. And like I said, the only upside to it was that she didn't roll in bed, so she actually slept amazingly. And I guess the other challenge that I've observed is, like with Brittany, and I'm sure it's the same with a lot of our wives, is that they feel a heavy sense of responsibility. So for me, it's finding out how can I take that burden off her, and that in itself is a challenge in a way, because you want to help with the child, but sometimes it might be better to help with the housework and with the cooking and all that sort of stuff. And then also helping manage stress levels is another thing. You become a pseudo counselor, which is great. Good experience.
Good stuff.
Hey, Ross, because of the COVID restrictions and the fact that we aren't meeting as a church congregation, this is the first news that I knew tonight about your and Bree's baby. And then when I heard you talking a minute ago, you're talking about them, and it made me think, well, hang on, is it just one baby, or are you guys expecting twins, or what's happening there?
No, just one.
Oh, that's, yeah. Well,
single live was what the obstetrician told us, and we were.
Right. Yes.
I thought it might have been we might have had to have a sort of a double congratulations or a double celebration.
One at a time.
Okay. But I was just going to add to the whole thing about challenges, and I think for me, thinking about parenting, I think the challenge is to be consistent. I think Ron touched on that as well, but I think it's important as parents that we know the path that we want to live, and we want for our children to live as well, and then to mirror, and then to display that, and to be a consistent picture of what that is, and so as Christians, believers in a sovereign God, we need to be, I believe, we need to be mirroring God's character to our kids, and in a consistent way. And that's a challenge. That's a huge challenge, and the hurly-burly of everyday living, isn't it? But certainly, one of the things I also think I was going to say about kids is you want them to fly. You want them to discover who they are. You want them to be who they are made to be, and so I think that the challenge for me was, or us, was really to get a balance between what's the word? Complying with behavioural norms, but also being able to be who they are. And I always used to have the idea that I always tried to say yes more than no. And the other thing is that when you do say no, you mean no. And that's part of the consistency thing as well. So let your yes be yes and your no be no. And I think that's a good foundation for raising kids in a secure environment. Where the boundaries are in place and they know that they're secure within that, and they're loved and they're supported and they're free to be who they are made to be.
That's such good wisdom. Thank you, David. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, and try and say yes more than no. It's easy to say no, right? It's easy to say no. A little bit harder to say yes, because yes comes with, yes, and then there's stuff that follows yes, right? I mean, one of the biggest challenges.
And my wife and my kids would tell you that got me into trouble many times as well, because it was, but Dad said. It was a yes with qualifications, but you said.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
and
part of the challenge.
And Mum says no. Wait till Dad gets home, and Dad gets home and says yes. Whoa.
Yeah, what happens then? That's right. Look, for me, one of my biggest challenges has just has been to slow down and be present. There's so many things to distract us these days, in whatever realm you are or whatever realm you're talking about. But within parenthood and fatherhood, there's so many things to distract from being present when you're there. So it's easy to be present, but it's much harder to be present, if you know what I mean, right? So that's been a challenge for me. It's just to be mindful of that and to slow down and to not want to rush things along, but just to be in the moment, to be present, and to enjoy parenting and parenthood and fatherhood. So yeah. Okay, I have another question for you. This is, let's do this one. Think quick, kind of do it in a nutshell. But here it is. If you could go back in time, we've all seen you've seen Back to the Future, that series? Anybody? Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Every now and again, I pull it out on Netflix and I just watch all three of them. Haven't seen it, Rob? It's all right. Some of us have, some of us haven't. That's all right. You should watch. It's good viewing, good entertainment. So look, Back to the Future. Okay, here's the question. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your teenaged self? Okay, so think about yourself. Think about yourself as a teenager. What would you say to you if you had the chance?
I would like to instruct myself in self-esteem.
Okay.
Instruct myself how to be strong of character against the pushy people.
Good stuff. Nice. Right on. Great start. Okay, you guys. What else?
Yeah.
What else do we have?
I would have told myself, stop talking and start listening. That's it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good wisdom. Wow. Awesome. That's great. Anything else? Anything else come to mind? What would you say to your teenage self if you had the chance?
I can't think of anything. Can you hear me okay, Tim?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, because the camera's not switching. But I can't think of anything specific. But if I would go back to my teenage self, having seen the journey we took, I would have told myself to start trying to have kids earlier.
Ah, right. Yes.
So,
Got it. David, you've been thinking.
Oh, look, I think I would probably I'd probably say to my teenage self, spend time with people, spend time developing relationships, and it applies to you, especially to your children. It's the biggest, I think it's the greatest gift that parents can give their children is the gift of time.
So good. Yeah. Yeah, well, look, I was a hyperactive child that became a hyperactive teenager, so I'd probably tell myself to slow down and just enjoy life and enjoy the ride. It seems like it flew by too quickly, and I probably didn't take the time to stop and slow down and learn the things that I needed to learn along the way. So that's probably what I'd say to myself.
Mm.
Good stuff, guys. This is so excellent. So I just want to take a little bit more of your time tonight and ask you this question. How has your relationship with God shaped who you are as a man, a son, a father, a grandfather, in any of those areas? How has your relationship with God shaped who you are? As a big one. We can take a little bit of time to think.
Mm.
I fail to see how folks who have no relationship with God manage to get through some of the things that they get through with family and children and with all the things that happen, good and bad, how they manage it. I grew up watching Christian parents and Christian grandparents, godly people who loved God and God loved them, and the way the Lord provided for them, my grandparents and my parents, sometimes in real difficult situations. And Lester alluded to this the other night in his talk, how his family were provided for when they were in Brazil.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's that sort of background that I come from and have grown into and have my own experience that has assisted me, guided me, helped me with my training of my children and hopefully with my grandchildren. There's a word called unconditional love. I believe unconditional love is a God gift. And unconditional love helps me, and would help other people. The one thing that you need to maintain with family is to maintain the link. You love them, whatever. If that link is broken, the family's broken. The family is destroyed. Sometimes that link is as thin as a gossamer's thread, but you love unconditionally. And it's because of having the Lord as my Savior, as my guide, that I can live like that with my family, in my training, in my talking with them, in my example. And I hope my example speaks more than my words, because some of my words are a bit silly. But I failed to see that I could have had a successful family as I have had without the Lord being in it.
Good stuff. I know for me, it's been growing up in a family of faith and growing up with godly parents and them being an example to me. And I really do believe that through my relationship with them, that again, coming back to what you said, Ron, was an unconditional love that they had for me, that was how God was shaping me through them. And I think, we are shaped by all of our experiences, but sometimes we take for granted how much we are shaped by our relationships with other people and how God works through other people to shape us. And I think that's incredibly important. And I think that's a responsibility that we all hold with each other. Not only us as fathers and parents with our children, but with us, for example, in this room, to shape each other and build relationships with each other. It's so important. and God is shaping us through those relationships. Yeah, so that's, for me, that's it. Godly parents and godly people around me that have shaped me into who I am today.
Yeah, I can follow that. I wandered away from faith for quite a few years, early 20s, late teens. And it wasn't until I met Brianna that my life changed and where I am now and everything that's around me. And even the person I've developed into, I feel like I could still be stuck in the early 20s mindset of perpetually frustrated, perpetually upset, not doing anything or not doing enough for others, or not thinking about, how my relationships impact other people, impact me. And then suddenly someone comes into my life, heaven sent, and then that has just turned everything around. And so suddenly now I see the world in a different light. I feel calmer. I feel like I can face the challenges of the day. And if I was doing this fatherhood thing 5-10 years ago, I don't think I'd succeed or be successful at it as well as I'd want to be as a father. But I feel so equipped now, and because it's not just me.
Nice.
And God did that.
So good. Thank you, Ross.
When you asked the question, what is it? How does your faith in God affect the way that you are as a father? And really, when you think about it, God is the ultimate dad, isn't he? I mean, he's our heavenly Father, and when you think about it, that's the perfect template for people who, for people of faith, for Christian men to follow, and I think that really for men to understand who God is, understand his character, and emulate the characteristics of God is just going to set every man up to be a great dad. When you think about when you think about the true character of God, just that you talk about unconditional love earlier on, Ron, and that's God. That's God's love, and that's and when we show that to our children, then they know that they're loved in a deep way, and it's nothing's going to change that. And what a secure environment to bring kids up in. So so God is the ultimate dad template. So getting to know him has got to be a good way for dads to start their fatherhood.
That's right. Good advice. If you want to be a good dad, follow God. Do what he did. Do what he does. Good stuff. Thank you, David, so much. Chris, any words on this?
Yeah, I think we've managed to kind of help this flow really well, because I can follow on from what Dave was saying about a father, and I kind of mentioned this in my story, but God did a lot of pruning of me over the period we had of trying to conceive Abigail, and my relationship with God was, I won't say non-existent, but it was more of a performance-based or religious-based relationship, where we talk about, you read your Bible, you tick that off, you go to church, you tick that off, go to band, you tick that off, and you don't really understand why you're doing it, or you're doing it to receive acceptance from God rather than the other way around. And I've come to learn, and I'm still learning, that, God told Jesus that he loved him and that he was proud of him before he did a miracle. So that's how God sees us. He loves us, he's proud of us. Not that we'll do miracles like Jesus did, but that's not the point. The point is he loves us and he's proud of us before we even lift a finger and do anything. And that's the same with us, with our kids. And, we're going to love our kids no matter what they do, no matter how they are. whether they go to church all their lives or not, that's not relevant. We'll still love them.
Yeah.
And anything they do, they'll flourish out of that. When they know they're loved, they'll flourish. They won't have to try and earn love. And I'm learning to see my relationship with God, like Dave said, my Heavenly Father in the same light. To live from a place of being loved and accepted. And the other thing I wanted to say around that subject was having a relationship with God where it was performance-based. Because it wasn't relational, I felt like I could just survive off Sunday. But when you look at a child, especially a baby, they need feeding every few hours, they need cuddles every day, they need nappies changed. Good luck, Ross. They need, they're full reliance on their parents. And that's essentially, I believe, part of the reason God says, become like a child. We need full reliance on God every day. Sunday church isn't enough to get us by. Sunday church is to encourage one another. And really we should be, and I've been convicted to spend more time with God, turn the TV off and get that constant nourishment. So that's I guess the way that Abigail's taught me in the last 10 or so months.
Nice. Yeah, Chris, I like what you said, and I'll paraphrase it and say, hey, look, love is the fertilizer of life, right? Love is what grows us, and love is what God has for us, and it's such a good thing that you say. I wanted to just share a word with you guys before we go, and a word with the people that are watching. Over this Father's Day weekend past, just shared a message about a verse in Proverbs that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And I talked on Sunday about 3 words. I talked about conversation, and I talked about confrontation, and I talked about confirmation. And just a little bit of a message about the fact that we are called as people, but in the context of Father's Day, we are called as men to encourage each other. And, those touchy-feely conversations, as they say, I think deep and meaningful conversations are conversations that sometimes we're not comfortable with as much as we ought to be, perhaps, as men, because the world says a man is supposed to be a certain way, and sometimes that's what we think fatherhood is or manhood is. But there's a real value in vulnerability and opening ourselves up to have conversations with each other as men about more than politics or footy or sports or the weather or whatever, those surface conversations that we often have. And sometimes we don't go past that surface into deep and meaningful conversations. And I think sometimes the reason why we don't do that is because conversation leads to confrontation, where we may end up realizing that we're wrong or that we need to change. And so that's challenging, right? No one loves confrontation, but it's those confrontations that lead to confirmation. And when I say confirmation, I mean relationship. It's that solidifying of relationship that comes through those godly conversations and confrontations as we keep each other sharp and useful as people that follow the Lord. And so that's just what I had shared just this past Sunday about that, and just an encouragement for people to continue to encourage others and to receive encouragement too, because sometimes it's difficult for us to receive encouragement as men, and certainly sometimes hard for us to remember to give encouragement as well. So I just wanted to ask you one more quick question about maybe a time when you have been encouraged by someone else, or you've had the opportunity to encourage someone, and just to think about how in that conversation, you may have had to be more vulnerable than you're used to or that you're comfortable with. I saw a quote recently by Brene Brown that said, vulnerability is the glue of relationship. And I think that's so true. And I think that as men, if we can get to the point where we encourage each other more, where we are more comfortable with conversation and we're more vulnerable in relationship, that we will experience that bond of love, and that will be the fertilizer for our spiritual growth together as a community of believers. So any word on that from anybody about encouragement, an opportunity that you've had to encourage someone, or that someone has been an encouragement to you before we go tonight?
Yeah, I think for me and for Brittany as well, we haven't so much had a lot of chance to encourage new parents, but I think we've spoken to 5 or 6 couples who've been through child loss, and like for us, being able to share and say, look, here's Abigail, healthy and happy and thriving, and that's as a result of our faith and the prayers of hundreds of people. And you know, we can get raw, and we do get raw with how much pain we went through emotionally and Brittany physically, and that vulnerability is what lets people, because when you're in that position, you feel very lonely, and that vulnerability helps people to know that, you know, they're not the only ones going those well. And look, 3 out of those 5 couples now have kids or are pregnant. So, you know, that's probably been the greatest thing to come out of our story is being able to share our story and our faith, and be an ear for someone to just unload on when they need it.
Nice. Thanks, Chris. Anyone else with some words on encouragement?
I've been encouraged many times. I've been in that many different situations over the years. So many different people have encouraged me different ways. And I've tried it as I get older, particularly talking to people, trying to encourage people in all sorts of ways. I see my role at the moment as really, really, really trying hard to encourage my grandchildren. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different world, and you know, the things that they're experiencing, I can't understand some of the things that they are going through. So it's just a matter of encouraging them, and I want them to know and understand that Papa's always there for them. In fact, I've got a little plaque, I brought it along, but this hangs up in the bedroom, and if they have a sleepover, this is hanging up in the room. So I'll let you have a look at it. It says, grandpas are there to help children get into the mischief they hadn't thought of first. So kids, Papa's here to help you. Whatever you want to do, Papa's here to help you. So, but that's one of the silly little things. But it's that sort of thing that I find gets them on side, and that's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I can imagine that you'd be the perfect papa to be getting kids into mischief wrong. I can.
David, thank you.
You know what? It's the grandparents' role to babysit the grandkids and then sugar them up,
send them home,
and then send them home. Right? How often have we heard that? It's not only the responsibility. I believe it's the right of the grandparents. And I tell you what, when I get to the point when I get an opportunity to do that, I'm going to take full advantage of that.
It's payback time.
Yeah, payback time.
That's what my dad keeps saying. It's so it's just got a list of things he's going to go through. Things apparently I did.
Right. Yes.
Here you go. Here, children, have this information.
Any other words on encouragement, guys?
I think encouragement is the building block to relationships as well. You know, and it's not difficult. I think that we can all be encouragers, and I think that I often say to people, you know, that every person we encounter in any given day is an opportunity to have an influence, a positive influence on that person's day. And I think that's a very simple principle to follow, and it can be just a smile or a greeting or have a great day. It can be something, a conversation you have, but have a positive, it's a choice, isn't it? You can either have a positive influence or a negative influence on everybody you meet. And so I think that's a great thing to do, is to encourage people along their journey. And you don't know what's going on in the behind closed doors in people's lives. But you just might have the right word to say if you've got if you've got the intention of having a positive word in their ear. And also that of course applies to fathering as well. Bringing up your children. Encouragement, is such a critical thing. And to be able to encourage them in all they do, and help them to aspire to do things that they don't think they're capable of, and just to encourage them along the way. And that's a father's role as well, and so important.
And it only takes one word of encouragement, right? You can have the worst day, and you can have so many things happen to you in a day that are discouraging. And then if you get a call, or you get a text, or you get an email from someone with a word of encouragement, it cancels out almost, all of that discouragement. That's the power of encouragement, right? It has that power to just cancel out all discouragement and all negativity. And so we just need to realize and harness the power of encouragement.
All it is. Good on you. Well done. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's just a word, literally.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It doesn't have to be anything big.
So good.
Good job.
Ross, did you share already, or did you have a word?
I did not. Mine was going to be short. This conversation has encouraged me immensely. I'm ready for the next forever now.
Nice. Well, look, and that's it, right? Sometimes it's just men or women or anybody. It's people getting together and just having open and real and honest and vulnerable conversation with each other. And we just happen to be recording this and having people join us. So look, let me, as we wrap up tonight, let me say thank you for your time tonight. This has been fantastic. And in honor of Father's Day, we've gotten together and just, I believe we have spoken together into each other words of life and words of encouragement. And hopefully some of you out there have been encouraged by some of the conversation tonight, and that you would be encouraged as a father. And we're gonna wrap up our time on Coffee and Convos tonight. But before we do, we just want to say together, cheers with our coffee. And also to all of you fathers out there, we hope that you had a very happy Father's Day, and that even it has extended all this week from this past Sunday, and that you will be encouraged and take the time to encourage someone else this week. Perhaps a father that maybe is a little bit younger than you are, or a peer. Call them up, encourage them, and say even just a word, thank you, you're doing a great job, I appreciate you. Let's encourage each other, men, more than we have before, and just move past the surface into those deeper conversations of faith together. So until next time, Dave, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, I did. Now, before you wrap it up there, Tim, you made mention about having the coffee mug and having a mug that might mean something to you, and be prepared to share the story. Well, I'll tell you what, Father's Day, the very first Father's Day gift that I received from my son, and so this has got to be, as I said, Adam's 32. So 32 years ago, I got a mug given to me. Now, my name is Fitness, right? Well, get a load of this if you can see that.
Mr. Fitness.
So can you see there's a pretty fit-looking dude in an armchair with a little dumbbell and his drink, and he's just really working on his condition. Now, that there isn't with me here in Australia, but it is in storage in a container somewhere in New Zealand at the moment. So I'll be able to dig that out next time I'm back over there. But that's 32 years ago, the first Father's Day gift I ever had.
Good stuff.
That is excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. And on the back of that, piggybacking on that, I'll say this is an opportunity. What's in this mug is an opportunity to build relationships between each other. So call someone up this week, say, let's go for a cup up and have a deep conversation about faith. We encourage you to do that. And so allow me to say thank you once again to you guys, and happy Father's Day to all of you, and to all of you out there. We'll see you next time on Coffee and Convos. Happy Father's Day. Bye.
Bye-bye.